Yo, what is up, everybody? And today we're here back with another First Descendant patch notes. The 1.3.31 patch note. We do have a lot in store for us to read here. We have some new arcane rebalancing, some more operational missions, and some more new weapons. Plus, we have some new arcane rebalancing. That's a new one because when we looked at arcane rebalancing, when they talked about it in the dev live, they did the dev live about I think about a couple days ago. But I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can go check it out. Um, we can't really go, look at dev live to give our own opinion because we don't have the, tech for that. But I'm gonna keep this intro short. And if you guys like what I put out and love what I do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment your favorite part, and give me some feedback on what I could improve for the, note of patches. Yeah. Alright, so the first thing we are going to talk about is the new infiltration operation called Bastion of Immortality. This operational mission was added in about literally when the patch notes that came out. So this was one of the first things that they added during the patch notes because it kind of took them a while. If I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere where they had to kind of take this out of the patch note and bring it back in. So they had to do two different patch notes because something had happened to the map itself. It was like a bunch of glitches and stuff. But with this Bastion of Immortality, what you get out of it is the new material that you need for crafting the new weapon that they have, and I'll go over that in a minute. You get the regular stuff you get out of the other operational missions, so like, superconductive foil, coins, Kuiper shards, stuff like that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they also said here you can get the new trigger modules out of here, and you can also get an anamorph material pattern, the Shackles of Immortality. It's a 30% drop chance, but I'm pretty sure that'll drop every single mission, just like, 400s and stuff like that. Moving on, we also have this new weapon called the Shackles of Morality. It is a hand cannon and impact rounds, so the green rounds. And the description for this weapon with its unique ability is called Circulation Rig. Circulation Ring. Fires a resting bullet on the first shot, and every set number of additional shots on hit, the resting bullet inflicts rest on the target. Rest deals continuous damage to the target, and max stack count is determined by critical hit damage. Landing a critical hit with a resting bullet on a target inflicted with rest triggers an additional effect based on the number of rest stacks. When a target inflicted with rest dies, the effect spreads to nearby enemies with a reduced number of stacks. So basically, you can think of this like that one hand cannon that is heavily used for Haley with the explosion effect. I can't think of the name at the moment, but I do use it on my boy Lepic. Because with the grenades that I have, with the build that I run, his grenades come back with the amount of bullets you fire. So when I pop his second ability, I'm always 100% of the time rewarded with a fast fire rate, so I can just kind of get my grenades back and no problem. But basically what it's saying here is that the amount of resting bullets that you have, it applies the stack, and then as soon as you fire that last stack, it disperses to nearby enemies. So this is just like that hand cannon, but it disperses rest, and it inflicts the spread around to nearby enemies. This is a really good gun. I'm low-key wanting this gun now. Moving on, we also have two new trigger modules, one called Electric Display. While an acceleration enhancement type skill is active on self, gains Volt at regular intervals. When hitting an enemy with a normal AoE type skill, recovers MP and rounds based on the number of Volt. Golden Assemble. Using different normal AoE type skill grants Surge to self. At max stacks of Surge, an additional effect is added. For the Golden Assemble, I feel like that would work on maybe Anise. It said a normal AoE, so maybe Valby, because Valby did get some buffs and Bunny did too. So maybe both of them. Electric display. That's definitely for Valby because she has a ele- acceleration enhancement type skill. So that actually could be. And plus, it does recover NP and rounds based on the number of volt. So I feel like that's for Bunny because she did get a couple of reworks. Moving on, we also have a new Colossus called the Tormentor. This is going to be an Abyss challenge and a challenge like boss. This is going to be the Obstructor. We already had Pyromaniac before, so I'm going to assume this is Obstructor because it says it's an electric imbued boss and it is weak to electric, but that wouldn't really make any sense. So I'm gonna say this is the Executioner. In a challenge-like form because I'm not sure if they did Obstructor. I don't remember. But yeah, I think this is the Executioner because it says it's electric attributed, so it's got to be the Executioner. Moving on, we also have some Descendant rebalancing slash improvement. This one is for Valby slash Ultimate Valby. They adjusted the AoE damage for her supply moisture. They increased it from 1,784% to 2,121%. They adjusted the cooldown for it from 60 to 5 seconds, and they changed her. It says right here that Valby can now interact, rescue allies, and use grappling maneuver while the cleanup or tidal wave skill is active. The next one we have is for Anise. They made it so where when she uses her third charge up skill that you can actually move the camera around. I was playing around with it, as you can see in the gameplay. In the background gameplay, I was using Anise and the camera kept like kind of flicking upwards. This actually had an effect when there was a Descendant that actually had the same camera bug like the other ones. We also have Bunny slash Ultimate Bunny improvement. They increased her skill critical hit rate for her abilities from 10 to 15%. They also changed her arcane type of lightning emission to fusion. It was singular, now it's fusion now. For her lightning emission, they increased her damage to 197.8% to 652.7%. They changed her max power to an ability called Flash Kick. She basically just does an entire jump kick towards the enemy and it does AoE damage. They increased the damage for her Electric Condescend from 7,484% to 8,960.8%. For her electric transition for her Thrill Bomb, they increased the damage from 1,636.4% to 12,391%. For her Flash Kick, there's no cooldown, but it can only be used when Bunny has Spark, which is the other bar that she has. For her, they also changed the Transcendent module Superconductor to Electric Link. They increased the damage for her Electric Link from 1,636.4% to 3,172.8%. They also gave the Electric Link increased fire rate by 20% and increased firearm attack by 85%. For her Bolt maneuver, they gave running speed 31%, speed while firing and aiming is all 31%. They also increased her electric charge from 3,543% to 3,887.3%. They lowered her high voltage, but they increased the max number of enemies you can hit with high voltage from 4 to 5. And they decreased the damage of high voltage from 2,383.5% to 1,698.5%, and it's only a 20% damage reduction. They also increased her lightning emission, and it says right here, if the number of enemies within the attack range is less than the maximum number of hits, the remaining hits will now be dealt to random enemies. However, if the same target is hit twice or more times, the damage will be reduced based on the number of hits. Increase the max number of hits from 4 to 5, and the damage would be decreased from 523.5% to 396.5%. We also have 3 new arcane parameters. One is called Rampage. It is a tier 2. It says right here that every 15 enemies defeated increases outgoing damage modifier by 20% and incoming damage modifier by 2.5%, and stacked up to 20 times for both abilities. For Heyday, it has a tier 3. On successful attack, has a 30% chance to gain an overshield equal to 70% of max HP. While this overshield is active, outgoing damage increased by 200% and has a 10-second cooldown. The third one is called Life Plunder. It's a tier 3 once again. On successful attack, has a 50% chance to recover 25% of HP and shield. Has a 3-second cooldown. This one right here is really good if you're struggling up on health, because with a lot of the Descendants and just when you're solo, they just all fire focus at you. So with a successful attack, and has a 50% chance to recover both health and shield, and only has a 3-second cooldown, this is pretty good. They also rebalanced 8 existing arcane parameters. They buffed increased melee damage to 88% to 264%, increased all melee damage for attribute amplification from 110 to 275. They increased the invasion specialist melee weapon when using a roll, increases melee weapon attack by 17%, stacks it to 10 times. Now attack for melee weapon is increased by 38% with a total of stack up to 10 times. When using a grappling hook for a hook specialist melee weapon, when using a grappling hook increases melee weapon attack by 17% to stack up to 10 times. When using grappling hook, increase melee weapon attack by 38%, so the same thing as with the roll one. For hunting specialist for Slayer, every 30 enemies defeated increases outgoing damage modifier by 400%. Now they lowered the amount of enemies you have to defeat in order for you to get that modifier buff. So now it's every 15 enemies with the same modifier of 400% for 5 seconds. For each melee weapon attack hit on an enemy has a 1% chance to increase outgoing damage modifier by 900% for 7 seconds, and has a 20% cooldown. Now they increase the duration for the outgoing damage modifier from 7 seconds to 10 seconds. For the offense master, they increased the increased outgoing damage modifier by 100% and incoming damage modifier by 50%, and they changed that, and it says increase outgoing damage modifier by 250% and incoming damage modifier by 50%. So they actually increased it. For defense master, decreased incoming damage modifier by 90% and outgoing damage modifier by 30%, and decreased, this is after the buff, decreased incoming damage modifier by 90% and outgoing damage modifier by 0%. So they actually took away the outgoing damage modifier from 30% to just straight up 0%. We also have some improved unique abilities of these 5 ultimate weapons. Here we have Eraser, Albion Cavalry Gun, Deus Ex Manus, Hypernova, and Crime and Punishment. With the Eraser, they now change the effect of Analyze. Effect is now required through a single method. The acquired on defeating enemies method has been removed. The amount of Analyze acquired has increased. While the max stack counts has decreased, the range of degrading enzyme had increased. The duration of degrading enzyme has decreased. So the range of degrading enzyme increased and the duration of it decreased, but the damage intervals has become shorter. There is now a limit on the number of degrading enzymes that can be spawned, and their damage has increased. I never did get to use the eraser because I didn't build it yet. I built it but didn't, like, put modules and stuff on it. So I'll give you guys my opinion, on stream or something about it. For the Albion Cavalry gun, deals additional damage when hitting an enemy inflicted with mark. The number of targets hit by ricochet has been increased. The frequency of ricochet has been increased, and inflicts chill resistant reduction on enemies that receive additional damage through mark or ricochet damage. So now both of them do that, because beforehand only ricochet damage was allowed to do bonus damage. Now enemies that are hit with mark also get that damage boost. For the DSX Monus, its special attack is now used in the direction of the camera. For Hypernova, using it decreases the special attack gauge from 60 to 50. Throwing/retrieving damage has been decreased from 63.3% to a full 60%. Deals increased damage 0.5 seconds of the antimatter field from 19% to 45% of damage. From the Supernova Explosion, deals increased damage from 190.1% to 380%. For the Crime and Punishment, increase the damage based on the condemnation stage has been increased from 60% to 75%. Okay, what the last one we have for today is bug fixes for some Descendants. For Valby, they fixed an issue where Valby would not target properly when using Bubble Bullet on certain monsters after approaching them. Fix an issue where the cooldown of Bubble, one of the skills of Valby Supply Moisture Transcendent mod, would not apply correctly. Fix an issue where the bubble effect would occasionally be removed when Valby was hit by a monster while Bubble or one of the skills of Valby's Supply Moisture Transcendent module was active. Fix an issue where the Arcane Attribute Dimension was not correctly displayed in Skill Description Tooltip when Valby equipped the Tidal Wave Transcendent modules. There was an issue where Valby's foot animation did not play correctly in certain situations while using the cleanup or tidal wave skills. Buffs were applied indefinitely during certain actions while using the bubble skill of Valby Supply Moisture. For Enice, they fixed an issue where the tooltip for Induced Current, one of the skills of Enice's Plasma Bullet Transcendent module, was missing or displayed incorrectly in certain language settings. For Ajax, fix an issue where the Void Gauge would intermittently not charge when using a skill immediately after using an Ajax enhanced skill. Alright, I think that is it for this week for patch notes. They have just, UI changes, some gun changes, but you guys can go look at that up on your own, because this video I've already been recording for at least about 20 minutes and I don't want to take up too much of your time while watching this. But they did make some very great changes, I do say so myself. I'm glad they're making some changes to Valby and Boney, because they're both really old Descendants. They've been in this game for quite a while, and with them bringing in new Descendants, and they're trying to make sure that with people having these favorite characters, they're not just using newer characters because of this newer content, that they make it so where everybody can use the old characters that they don't have to, I guess, grind for and, put in that effort and that grinding when they just want to use their character. So I'm glad they're really giving these characters, old characters specifically, more time in the light, so they can do that. I'm still waiting for Blair buffs because he needs it, like, a lot. Blair and Lepic buffs. Hopefully we get that up in the future. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. If you guys like the video and would love to see more of my content, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment your favorite part in the video, and some feedback for the patch notes. And then without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.